Our next guest, Gary Lee, executive editor of the Tulsa Flyer and managing editor of the Oklahoma Eagle. Good to have you, bud.
Thank you. Happy to be here, Sam.
It's like old home week.
It is. It is.
Answer a question for me.
Yes, sir.
Why don't I see more young black male and female reporters and anchors in the business?
Good question. There's a long answer, but I'm going to give you the short one. One is that young black people who, get out of college, get into the professional world, have a lot of opportunities. And public relations, teaching, business. And for some reason, going into our business has not been as high up on their priorities as I would like. I think the teaching is there, the desire among a certain sector is there, but not like the enthusiasm that we used to see. Good question. That's one of the things that we'd like to correct.
I wish we could turn it around.
I do, yeah.
I, in my heart, believe that's a segment of our population that is grossly overlooked and not heard from. And we need to hear from them on a generational basis, because each generation that passes through takes a little bit with them until finally we have no experienced black journalists.
Sam, very insightful. I could not agree with you more. What I've found is that every generation has a particular insight and perspective. And if we in the news business are going to get the full picture, we really have to have that perspective. So I agree with you.
I have heard, correct me if I'm wrong, I have heard from 2 or 3 different sources that at one time, Oklahoma boasted somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 black-owned and operated newspapers.
I don't know that figure. It doesn't surprise me. If you look at the early years of statehood, when there was a lot of bustle going on in black communities, not just in Tulsa, Muskogee, and other parts, the black townships, there was so much going on. And remember, those were days in which we didn't have guys like you doing television, and we didn't have all that much radio going on. So you had to have, newspapers were a big thing. The spread of information in black communities, or the news of black communities, was really through newspapers. So that doesn't surprise me. That's a good bit of history there. I'm going to do some more research in, Sam.
I would appreciate a return answer on that.
For sure, yeah.
It's an interesting thing to me, but I was in Edmond not too long ago and spoke with a young fellow who's fresh out of college,
yeah,
who has his eye on the ball. I mean, this kid's going to do something. We're going to hear about him down the road.
Yep.
But he said, my first obligation is my family.
Mm-hmm.
I've got to feed my family. And I thought, that's commendable. But at the same time, he said, I've also got to achieve my goals. Now, I didn't press him, but he made it very clear that he intended to go through journalism to do it. And
I love that story.
Journalism is not the highest paying business in the world.
It isn't. If you make your way through it well enough, you can feed your family. And then obviously there are goals to be set. So I want to find that young man and bring him along.
You've written for the Washington Post, haven't you?
I have a bunch of years.
Yeah.
22, 23 years. Yeah.
Good gracious.
Yeah, I know, right?
As manager of the Eagle, I got to tell you, man, that's quite an honor.
It is, and
Sam,
it's
quite a responsibility.
Sam, I'll tell you, so we recently changed the structure a little bit, so I've been, so to speak, kicked upstairs, so I'm executive editor of the Eagle. We have a young man who is the managing editor, Ross Terrell, recently came aboard, who's in charge of operations and so on, but So I grew up on the Eagle. I'm not exaggerating to say I learned how to read on the Oklahoma Eagle. I grew up in North Tulsa, would sit on the front porch of my parents' house and wait for the delivery guy on Thursdays to bring the Eagle. So, and the Eagle then was the first read for many people in the community in Tulsa. So news that you didn't get anywhere else, you get it in the Eagle, and that's why it was special to especially the black and underserved communities in Tulsa. We'd like to keep that tradition going. We like to keep that up because we believe that no matter where you are in life, if you're in Tulsa, that you need to have and need to have access to information about the community. You need to know people who died, who was born, who got promoted in a job. You need to know what development is going on in the community. You need to know how people are being treated, et cetera. And you can find all of that in the Eagle.
I watched, in fact, I talked to my wife about it just the next day, but I was watching a local newscast on television. And I understand what goes on in a television newsroom. I understand it because I worked in one for so many years. But the story involved of what they call a voice-over, where you're seeing video and we hear the anchor's voice. And the anchor was talking about activity on top of the bridge or the overpass. What the anchor didn't mention was what was going on under the overpass, because that's where the red lights and the blue lights were flashing, not just a few. There had to be half a dozen police cars, 2 or 3 ambulances. What was going on there? I think any good reporter would have caught that, would have seen the video beforehand, and would have said, and down below, what's going on with our young reporters?
Sam, I love that image, and I'll tell you, recently I was talking to a longtime reader of the Eagle, and he was explaining that he takes some of the back editions of the print newspaper to nursing homes across Tulsa, and that one of the comments, feedback that he gets is that we at the Eagle like to tell the full story. Yeah. We don't like to tell part of the story like that. So that full story would involve what's going on down there below and what's going on up above. So I love that image. I'm going to keep that in my mind.
I'll tell you when we get off the air where I saw it.
Okay, all right.
I don't want to upset the brethren.
Right.
What's the Tulsa Local News Initiative? What is that?
So the Tulsa Local News Initiative is an initiative brought on by the American Journalism Project based in DC. And what the American Journalism Project does is goes into cities across the country and figures out whether they need a different kind of news entity to provide news and information that people in that city are lacking. They came to Tulsa a couple of years ago, did a study. They said, yeah, we need something new and fresher, and it's providing stuff, news and information in Tulsa. They did focus groups and went all across the city of Tulsa and came out with a report. And the gist of that report is that there was a very strong need for a nonprofit news organization in Tulsa. And so they got some funding, some pretty good funding for that. So the Local News Initiative technically refers to a kind of a group of publications that we are supporting. At the center of that is, and you might be getting to this, Tulsa Flyer. So we're daily news. We've got a big bustling newsroom in Tulsa, and we're trying to provide local news. We're not going to be trying to covering the White House, that kind of thing like that. Local Tulsa news to people across the city. In addition to that, we have some partners. We figured that we wanted to keep and preserve the legacy publications that are in the Tulsa area that were doing good work. So some grant money was given. The Oklahoma Eagle is a sister publication to Tulsa Flyer. But in that group, we've also got La Semana, which is a bilingual paper serving the Latin community in Tulsa. We've got The Frontier, which is, investigative reporting in the city. We have KOSU, which is, among other things, it's there because they are known for their indigenous reporting. And we've got Focus Black Oklahoma as part of that group. And then there are other partners. But all of us, we're kind of working together to try to raise up the reporting, the dissemination of, and just discussion about events and news going on across Tulsa. So that's what we're about.
I'm going to ask you this, and you'll grin. You'll know what I'm talking about.
All right, okay.
You ever get a young reporter come in with that look of a deer in the headlights and say, I don't see any news going on?
Right.
You ever see that?
I saw it frequently, yeah. I know what you mean like that. This morning, in one of our news meetings in the newsroom, I said, listen, we got to get out across the city, because you don't find any news sitting in the office, and you don't find it very much from a press release. Yeah. You find it by getting out and talking to people. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
I know in the old days, it was very common to see the print guys and the print gals
right.
with their hair on fire.
Right.
I mean, they might not even check in the office because they're already out there.
Yeah.
And taking either great pictures or writing an incredible story with a rock'em sock'em byline at the top.
Yeah. Sam, I was lucky to be part of the generation of those kind of mean, hungry reporters at the Washington Post. So Ben Bradley, the famous Washington Post editor, hired me, kind of mentored me early on. Catherine Graham, who was the owner of the paper, we were close. I worked with her. I traveled with her in Russia and the Republic of Georgia, stuff like that. So I kind of came out of that era of, every day we were kind of hungry. Okay, what's going on here? Like that. So, and I'm trying to bring that to Tulsa.
And they trusted you, didn't they?
They trusted, yeah, somehow they did. I don't know how that came about, but
well, I can tell you why, because you were a good writer.
Okay, yeah.
Anybody that's a good writer,
Yeah.
you'll have your hook in them in no time.
Yeah.
Listen, we're out of time, Gary. Will you come back?
I will. I'd love to.
I'd love to have you back, and I'd love to bring some cameras over,
Yeah.
get a few pictures of
Come
what's
down,
going on in the newsroom.
Come to our newsroom, yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
You're a good man.
Really appreciate the time with you, Sam.
We'll get together.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.